This is Booking It to Financial Freedom, show number 16. I notice when I cut out processed foods that you feel so much better.
Yeah, and your body knows what to do with whole food. Our bodies don't know what to do with some of the processed foods that are put into processed foods. If you just go and order coffee at a coffee shop, a lot of people are actually ordering dessert, as their first meal of the day.
600 calorie coffee.
Yeah, for the first week of your clean eating, a lot of times you'll feel like crap because your body has learned to just deal with all the stuff you're putting in it, and you don't actually know how crappy you feel until you take it out.
The ability to move your body and have higher blood flow to your brain, I think it creates the ability for you to adjust in those situations a lot faster. Honestly, movement is probably key. It makes me more awake. It makes my body more awake, and I'm just kind of ready to tackle the day.
Welcome to Booking It to Financial Freedom, where we explore literature from some of the most successful experts in their field to help you build a blueprint for personal growth and financial freedom. Join us as we examine a new book every month and break down key concepts to help you get out of the rat race and on track to start building a life better than you ever imagined.
Hey everyone, I'm your host, Amanda Schneider, realtor and investor, and I'm here with my co-host and teammate, Jamie Booth. Hey, Jamie.
Hey, Amanda, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am absolutely excellent right now.
Yeah.
It feels like with our podcast and everything, the weather is improving.
Oh, it's so lovely.
Everything just feels like it's all heading in the right direction, and it's a wonderful feeling.
It is a wonderful feeling. Yeah. So we had a great guest today.
Oh yeah, great interview. We had Jess Halfpop on today, and it was a great interview. I love having guests on. It just reinforces all the things that we're talking about, that we're trying to convey to our audience, and then hearing personal experiences like that and their success and stuff. It's just so motivating to have, that kind of stuff on the show.
It is, and after we stopped recording with Jess, we were just talking about how I also love having the guests on because even though this show is really about building your path towards financial freedom, I truly don't believe you can be successful in that area unless you work on all of the pillars of your life. And so Jess was our guest today to really talk about health, fitness, sleep, nutrition, all of that kind of stuff. And so all of that has to be also, something that you concentrate on and work on while you're also trying to attain a level of financial freedom. Absolutely.
You have to have a well-balanced life. You have to take care of all of those aspects, or something's going to fail, and that's a huge setback for you. But you're personally, like your relationships, your fitness, whatever, it's all important, and you have to take care of yourself and all of those aspects of your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we had Jess on today, as we mentioned, and she's going to share with us and our viewers her journey about owning her own business and how she has incorporated the Miracle Morning into her own life, and she actually, she implements that in the training programs and the stuff that she has with her clients. So I thought that was super cool as well.
That is really cool.
Shows the power of this book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if she necessarily used the word life-changing, but it was a huge impact in her life 3 years ago when she read the book. So cool. I'm going to go ahead and read her bio. So Jess Halfpop is a functional nutritionist and performance coach. She has an undergraduate degree in biology and animal science and is a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach through the National Academy of Sports Medicine. Jess has been coaching clients towards optimal performance in body and mind for over 15 years. She provides individualized programs focusing on improving metabolic health, clinical blood work, hormone balance, stress, mood, gut health, sleep, mobility, and movement. Her programs are always individualized, getting down to the small details with updated blood work, food preferences, life, business, home stressors, and identifying habits that are derailing focus, energy, and goals. So there's a lot of words there, but there's a lot to focus on when you're looking at the big picture of just nutrition and health.
Yeah. So I hope everybody enjoys this show today. I think they're going to get some value out of it.
Absolutely.
So let's get Jess on.
Sounds good. Hey, Jess, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We're so excited to have you
Nice
on.
to have you here. Awesome.
Yeah, I'm super excited, guys.
Yeah. So when we read it in your bio, we said you were a functional nutritionist and performance coach, and you run your own practice. Can you kind of tell us how you got into that field and that field specifically?
Yeah, so I've always wanted to be in some kind of health aspect when it comes to business. I've always been really interested in it. I was a biology major. I really wanted to do medical school. But the more that I had the opportunities to kind of step foot in that in college, I kind of it wasn't what I thought it was going to be,
Right.
which I'm glad because I've learned a lot more and I enjoy what I do. But I started personal training, kind of figured out that movement wasn't really a big problem to a lot of health issues, and got really into nutrition for a long time. Started really coaching on that in 2008. And it's just kind of evolved from there as far as my practice goes. But that's kind of where I am right now.
Can you kind of explain what it means to work in functional nutrition versus just like nutrition counselor or whatever it is, like how that niche is a little different?
Absolutely. So I like to really focus, and anybody really in functional nutrition likes to focus on people working at their most optimum level. And that doesn't just mean exercise. A lot of people think that performance coaching is really just for athletes. Mm-hmm. It's really not. It's for the person running their business, a CEO, somebody running a household, the entrepreneurs, also athletes. I have worked with athletes. But it's getting people to figure out what's getting in their way of really having their body perform optimally.
Right.
So not only do we deal with movement, of course, but food is a big part of it. Sleep is a huge part of it. And really getting people to understand what their biomarkers are, because it's so different for everybody. So Western medicine is huge. And same with registered dietitians in that nutritional field. The ranges for biomarkers for people to understand their bodies is so wide.
Yes.
And we talked a little bit about it earlier, but we're not, not everybody falls into that category. So even though you could be shooting normal on your blood work, doesn't really mean that you're feeling your optimal. So I deal with a lot of the people who are like, man, I just don't feel good, and I'm doing all the things, and I want to figure out why.
Yeah, and my doctor says there's nothing wrong with me, right? But
Yes, exactly.
I feel good.
My doctor says you're normal.
Yeah.
And that's actually a lot of people are really normal. So doctors are not going to take their time because they're not ready to prescribe a pharmaceutical or a procedure or surgery. So it's kind of actually out of Western medicine's hands.
Right.
When you don't feel good and you're coming back normal on their lab work, they're not going to do anything. They can't really for you.
Yeah. I think I've shared on the podcast before that my husband and I are working with a functional medicine practitioner. And one of the biggest ahas to me was that they said, when they say you're in the normal range or you're below or you're above, those ranges are typically based on sick people, because those are the people that are actually getting tested. If you're feeling great, whatever, you're performing well, you're not going to get your blood drawn and things. So those numbers actually come from typically sick people. So when you fall within that normal range, actually it probably means you're probably not normal. You're probably below normal.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So those normal ranges are based on common blood work. Mm-hmm. So you're right. And who's getting blood work done more? People who are sick? Yes.
Yep. Absolutely.
So just because it's common doesn't mean it's normal.
Yep.
Yeah, what baseline are they actually using?
Exactly.
Right. I've noticed that with my myself, my personal health is I'm probably still like above normal for a lot of things, but like I was a very, fit athlete at one point. So, negative 60% performance for me is probably still above normal for like some people, but yeah, it's hard to get feedback on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. If any one of us here walked in to our doctor and said, I don't feel good, and they would be like, sorry, I can't help you.
Yeah.
You're actually pretty healthy on my, and you're well above average of their patients.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can you talk about how you kind of came to, I know you work a lot with like the testing and blood work, and you help clients read their blood work. So what kind of got you on that path, and what do you provide for your clients?
Yeah, so actually my coaching community. So I actually came from a network marketing start, and a lot of our coaching coaches, I should say, were actually from the medical world. So a lot of medical practitioners, MDs, NPs, PAs, and then also, you have like your ODs and stuff like that too. But, and so that hearing their background and what they see from patients kind of got me really interested on a clinical basis. Like, okay, this is cool. I can actually see on somebody's blood work very particular biomarkers that are not optimal. When I mean, it's not complicated. Like blood work that you're going to get pulled from your practitioner is very baseline. Mm-hmm. So if those are abnormal, then you're really sick and you are where you need to be. But things like, looking at hormone panels, when somebody wants to look at their thyroid, let's say they're super lethargic, they're going to check your TSH, your thyroid stimulating hormone. Well, there's like 4 other really important biomarkers. So having people understand to advocate for themselves as patients when they walk into a doctor, and understand the background of their blood work. Say, I want a full thyroid panel. And you know what? They can read it, but then their doctor is actually going to be able to see the big picture. We talked about that earlier, too. Mm-hmm. The big thing, I think, with people that I work with is a lot of metabolic issues with people. So metabolic syndrome is not something Western medicine looks at because there's no pharmaceutical for it until it's beyond when you hit type 2 diabetes. And you can actually be pre-diabetic for up to 13 years before you ever go full-blown, and nobody's catching it. And we're wondering why. Well, because Western medicine holds off until they can actually help you with it. Mm-hmm. They can't help you until you're actually on a drug.
Until there's something to treat.
Yeah, exactly. So learning those biomarkers really helped me help my clients. Mm-hmm. And there's optimal ranges to tell them to be in. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. There's like 3 different tests I have them really, really look at. And I make it easy. But I think when you teach people how they can advocate for something as simple as a simple blood draw, I think doctors will be held a little bit more accountable to be able to quickly look at the big picture. I don't know why we don't have enough time with our doctors. I think insurance is probably a big part of it now, and that's kind of unfortunate.
Sure.
But like I talked about before, you have to invest a little bit of money into getting optimal. Mm-hmm. And I think some people don't know that yet.
Yeah. But I love that you're really you're teaching people to be their own advocate, because for me, a lot of times the medical field and all those tests is kind of like taxes. Like it is way up here and hard for anyone that doesn't have a degree specifically in that field to understand. And so if you can teach clients to understand basic blood work, what they should be asking their doctors for, they are so much above what anyone else is when they're advocating for their health.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. It's a partnership.
Yeah. Love it.
So I have to ask, did you start with the regular Miracle Morning, or did you start with Miracle Morning for Network Management?
I totally started with the regular one. I didn't know that Hal Elrod, who, by the way, is amazing human, he has a ton of books.
He does, yeah.
I did end up buying it. I still love this book right here.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
We did a disclaimer on our first episode for the book. Like there's 50 different versions of it.
20 different versions, yeah.
I've had clients actually order the book on Amazon and get a different book.
Yeah.
Not that book.
Maybe that's what happened to you, Amanda.
Exactly. So I want to talk a little bit about your journey to start your own business. So working in this field, did you always do this for yourself? Did you used to work for someone else that brought you into the idea of starting your own business? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I actually did work with all of us being pretty independent. We kind of had our own independent little practice startup, 2006. And we all kind of went different ways. But I met these people actually doing CrossFit. That's when I got really into the nutrition side of it. Mm-hmm. But no, besides that, I was kind of forced into building my own virtual business because my husband's military, and that was just our life was moving. And even though I had built up a great clientele here in Colorado Springs, that was local. Once we moved, I was like, okay, I can still see you. It'll just be virtual and I'll figure it out. Yeah. And so it was a great, very challenging learning curve for me, but it has paid off. Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. That's it's really hard for a lot of people to, if they did have a W-2 job, to step away and kind of have that bravery to start your own business. So knowing that it just kind of happened a little bit organically for you, obviously you've had to work your ass off to get it to continue. And now you have 2 young kids that you also, have to take care of and take around, and your business is thriving. That's just amazing. So
thank you. Yes, it has. I mean, it will continue to grow. I think you have a choice. You have a choice to either go back to working for somebody, which I think is fine. It works out for some people, but for where I am and what I want to do, and I like being around my kids, and not having to leave most of the day to somebody else to take care of them. So it's really worked out. And I would never have thought I would have been that person before I had kids. I always thought I would be working out of the home and stuff, but it has worked out very, very well. So I'm grateful.
Being your own independent person, you can really kind of focus however you want to focus with your clients. Like we were talking when we were hiking today, like if you became a registered dietitian, they kind of have a criteria or a line that they want you to teach off of, which you don't necessarily agree with. So this really gives you the autonomy to teach what you want.
Absolutely. Yes. And a lot of early nutrition I learned was actually out of Penrose Hospital, Maine, down here in Colorado Springs. I worked and did just volunteer work for cardiac rehab unit. And we I didn't run, but I watched run the nutrition information coming to clients after they go through bypass surgery. And looking back on that, and I was actually in high school when this was going on, looking back on that information that is still being taught to registered dietitians today. So yes, I thought about doing registered dietitian work. They've moved it up to a master's degree, which I think is fine, but it's nothing of what I teach at all. I don't think that information is very great for the majority of people.
I know you're a big advocate in looking at somebody's diet, and I think you probably do some version of the elimination diet, that kind of thing. Or do you? How do you decide what you should kind of prescribe as far as food goes to your clients?
So what I tell people is I actually meet people where they are, because food is very personal. And what I've learned over the years is that you can't just give a meal plan to somebody and tell them you need to follow this. It doesn't work. People can't stick to it for a lot of reasons. I mean, food is very personal. It's also, religious aspects to food too.
Sure.
What I tell people is most of the time you should be following whole foods, something that doesn't have a barcode on it. And you can actually do a lot with that. You can even make your own pasta at home if you want to. I think it's much better than the store-bought.
Sure.
So I give people the flexibility to still eat what they'd like to eat. It may be not as convenient. Convenience is still important, I think, in our time. But it's more so just sticking to whole foods. I mean, if people could do that 80% of the time, they would feel so much better.
Absolutely.
I call it eating clean. I mean, it's a pretty common thing, but I notice when I cut out processed foods that you feel so much better. It's just, I don't know, it's just a weird feeling. So for people who've, bodybuilding, all the fitness stuff, if you've gone for long periods of eating clean and then you throw some of that processed food or junk food or whatever back in your diet, I mean, it literally feels like you've just ran out of gas, like instantly. It's so weird how, it works on your body. And most people, I don't think, really understand what they're doing to their body on a daily basis as far as what food they're processing. And they've never experienced that what it's like to eat clean and have, clean burning energy in your body.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and your body knows what to do with whole food. Our bodies don't know what to do with some of the processed foods that are put into processed foods. So I usually say, whole foods, it's kind of a general term, but I'd like people to focus on protein. I love people to focus on whole food fats, avocados, olive oil, nuts and seeds. Most of the time I actually see issues when people do a journal for me of there's like no fat in the diet. They're trying to stay away from eggs. They're trying to stay away from red meat. I think that's obscene and absurd advice.
Agreed.
It's like I've noticed throughout my years of training and stuff is you get those calories just burned through your body so more efficiently, right?
Giving you the fuel that you need.
Yeah, it's like it's weird because I love I never was an avocado person, but here recently over the last couple of years, probably moving here to Colorado, where there's a lot of Tex-Mex and Mex-Tex or whatever, all that good stuff is a little more avocado and cilantro, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just amazing how well your body processes those calories as opposed to the really nasty food that you can get out of a box for the most part.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. A lot of the issues that people have just with energy and function and brain fog is their blood sugar spikes. I mean, if you just go and order coffee at a coffee shop, a lot of people are actually ordering dessert. as their first meal of the day.
600 calorie coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, people might be shocked. I think the minimum amount of sugar I've seen in a Starbucks drink is anywhere from 50 to 75 grams of sugar.
That's
Wow.
insane.
That's added sugar. It's obscene, and we wonder why we have a problem.
Yeah.
And people don't know it, though. Nobody talks about sugar. You talk about salt. I mean, look at salt. I mean, I still remember on that cardiac rehab floor, no salt. Patients were not allowed salt. Salt is not the issue. It's the other, white powder, the sugar.
Yes.
So,
yeah. To Jamie's point too, when he was saying, when you're eating clean and then you introduce foods that we shouldn't be eating, processed foods, et cetera, that you feel like crap. And the same is true. So if you're somebody who's used to eating crappy food processed and then you start eating clean, I think they call it the carb flu is kind of the term. But like for the first week of your clean eating, a lot of times you'll feel like crap because your body has learned to just deal with all the stuff you're putting in it. And you don't actually know how crappy you feel until you take it out. So I think that's a huge indication too of like, you feel like crap, then the next week you feel amazing. And it's because your body's finally using the whole foods. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's like the dopamine effect too. So sugar is super addicting. And they're seeing now the body literally does go through a withdrawal phase. And carbohydrates are broken down into sugar. So it makes sense.
right, for sure. I want to ask you a few more questions about how you work with clients and stuff, but I want to make sure we get into the Miracle Morning.
Yes,
since that's our
definitely.
book. So tell me kind of when you first read Miracle Morning and how that has an impact on your life.
Yeah, so I read it 3 years ago, and I actually ended up getting a group of entrepreneurs to read it with me to hold each other accountable.
That's cool.
Yeah, we all wanted to see how doing these things could actually affect our businesses. And it was just 4 of us, and everybody's business, the needle moved significantly. So, but I think the biggest changes with just reading that book was implementing these habits that kind of just expanded, what we were doing already. But yeah, 3 years ago, and I reference this book all the time. I tell clients to read it. Just about every client of mine has read it.
That's awesome. Do you kind of help them or check in to see if they're actually implementing some of these suggestions in the book, or how do you handle that? Or is it more just like read this and kind of let them take from it what they want?
So it really depends on the client. But for clients who are I have like a routine pathway that I teach, and every one of those clients will get this book and they will read it and then they implement it for 30 days.
Okay. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll cover it in the next book that we're going to do, but it's the impact of powerful habits, and obviously being able to start your day off at fully in control and all that good stuff on a positive note. But a lot of it has to do with the powerful habits that you develop from it too.
Absolutely.
100%. Yep.
Is it something that you still do in your daily morning routine or parts of it?
Definitely. Yes. So I don't go through all the savers that he does every morning. The cool thing about that book is that you can manipulate that to, flex into whatever you're doing, or things that are just really, really click with you. So I liked and appreciated some of the things that I did in that book, like the silence meditation. That was stuff that was never really something that I practiced, but I learned how to focus a lot better, which is huge anyways. So all of the things I like people to do, and I'll go back to this book every now and again and implement it for another 30 days because I just think that it reinforces those habits. But I don't practice all of them, but I do have a solid morning routine.
Yeah. And I know you're up early because I always see your stories of you kind of talking about your day and starting it out with, something nutritious, et cetera. Do you, because you do have 2 young kids and a husband, obviously, do you try to get up before everyone else to try to get your hour or half an hour to yourself?
Yes. Yeah. So I am wildly independent. So having 2 kids, 2 big dogs, and obviously my husband's, he's retiring now, but usually he was in and out with trainings and deployments. But yeah, getting up and before the chaos of the house begins is so important. And even if you don't have kids, getting up and getting onto your phone is the same thing. It is the chaos of life.
Such a good point.
Yes. So I think that having downtime, quiet time, and not allowing the outside world to come in to your life, at least for the first 2 hours in the day, is very impactful on how you spend your day.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of my biggest takeaways, is just however you spend that first 30 minutes to 60 minutes is again, not letting the outside world, but not waking up to the last minute where you have to run into the shower and now take the kids to school or get to work or just feel flustered, like just taking that minute to really breathe and just
to start your morning off slow and in control. It's just so nice, even if it's just sitting there with a cup of coffee and enjoying the silence, right?
Yes.
Just doesn't have to be the full savers, but just being able to start off and feel in control before everything hits the fan for the most part.
I totally agree. Yep.
Yeah. Is there a favorite savor that you have of one of the?
I know I've thought about this question, and honestly, I think all of them are incredibly important. I do feel that the affirmations is a big deal, more so because how you speak to yourself, and it's huge. A lot of people don't believe they can do a lot of the things that they want to do, and it sets them up for failure. I mean, if you don't think you're going to do it, you'll never do it. So I think the affirmations for me, I'd never done them, and it was very significant for my business on how I saw where I was going with my business. That was a big one. The visualization I thought was surprised by was very important to how I wanted to build my business because I wanted to develop freedom of time and I wanted to see what that looked like. So visualization just detailed it for me. And then obviously the movement part is huge. And movement is so incredibly important for a lot of mental health aspects. But it also for your focus. So if you don't have focus, which I think a lot of people have a lot of issue with focus, distractions, it takes 25 minutes to recover from one distraction. So I can't imagine what working in an office with multiple people coming in and out of your office looks like for people.
Yeah.
But learning how to deal with that, I think is really important. But the ability to move your body and have higher blood flow to your brain, I think it creates the ability for you to adjust in those situations a lot faster. So there's I think honestly, movement is probably key. It makes me more awake. It makes my body more awake. And I'm just kind of ready to tackle the day. So the exercise part was kind of key for me.
Yeah. Just knowing you and the things you like to do. I feel like for you, because you're such a big hiker, like you love running and hiking and being outside. So for you, kind of the movement piece and the silence piece is maybe the same thing sometimes when you're on your hikes. I mean, I know you have your kids with you sometimes, but that's what I love about Colorado is just being out in nature and just having that time to think, but also moving my body and, hopefully getting my heart rate up because we're at 5,000 elevation here.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Yep.
But yeah.
Yes, no, definitely the silence part of hiking and being alone. I was laughing because I do try to take my kids every time I go hiking when I have them with me because that's important, I think, for your kids to be outside. But my kids know that I always avoid people on the trail. So I'll do Garden of the Gods, but I always do the outskirts. And my daughter was like, do you not want to go inside the park because there's a lot of people? I'm like, yes. If I'm going to be in nature, I'm going to try to be alone as much as I can. Yes.
I always try to hit the trails that are empty.
Yeah, it's hard.
Which is hard around here, but
it's hard to find them. Yep.
Yeah, that's funny.
And as far as just wanted to touch on the mental aspect, the mental health aspect of exercise, which is, I don't know, I've talked about this several times, but I think I can't remember I don't know if this is a popular saying or just something one of the guys in my veterans group was talking about, but they say depression can't hit a moving target. So
I like that.
Yeah, I like that one.
That's really good.
I think there's a lot of people out there who are suffering that just don't understand how important exercise can be and how much of a profound effect it can have on your mental state. I struggle with the same thing, I've talked about this in past episodes with my mental health and stuff like that. When I know I've experienced being extremely fit and I've experienced, long periods of, being docile. So it's like I know for a fact in my brain that's completely different. So if you're struggling out there,
just start moving.
Get up and move.
Yes, so important. And I think also, not only just the blood flow to the brain, I think helps with depression, but we were made to move and we are incredibly sedentary. People think that they move and I look at, whatever tracker they have. Generally, I'm seeing people move only 1,000 to 3,000 steps a day. Yeah. That's awful.
Unfortunately, society is completely designed around being
convenience.
Convenience and doing as little as humanly possible.
Yes.
I mean, we don't even go grocery shopping anymore. There's so many people out there who don't even go to the grocery store. Yeah. Everything is delivered to your house. Your fast food is delivered to your house. Everything is a convenience. Amazon, I mean, heck, society is almost set up that you don't even have to leave your living room these days.
Scary.
So you can work from
Very
home,
scary.
order everything in, you're good to go.
Yep, absolutely. And I think also people think exercise, they have to be doing something crazy intense. And honestly, moving the body in any way, you know, yoga, mobility, walking. God, walking's life-changing for people. So it doesn't have to be intense.
Yep, just move.
Yeah.
Can you give us an idea of if I'm a new client, what that kind of looks like, what the initial process is, and then kind of how you set me up for success so that eventually I don't need you? Because I know that's your ultimate goal is to make people self-sufficient.
Yeah, absolutely. So every client that I have will go through a very solid questionnaire. So not only will I be looking at what their ideal goals are, but I'm going to be looking at really common habits that are not great for them that probably are a barrier to them moving forward. So every client is different. That's what I like about what I do. I don't have set up specific programs for people. And I enjoy working on people one-on-one. So it really would depend on goals. But mostly what we cover is somebody comes in, we'll work at minimum about 3 months together, no matter what your goal is. And generally I will have pathways. Like, what are we initially struggling with? So the first month that we'll focus on that. So new beginners, it will be building a routine. Not only just a physical routine, getting up and finding time to move, finding time to prep your food, stuff like that. But also we will go through, you know, highlights on what your food should look like on a day-to-day basis, your sleep and your bedtime routine. The cool thing about this book too is that these people who want to tackle a morning routine are definitely going to be tackling a nighttime routine and not even know it.
Yeah.
They're not going to be drinking, staying up late, watching TV because they know they have something they need to be doing in the morning. So I think that's kind of another thing that maybe he already knew he was writing into this book and didn't put it in there. But so many people just think that sleep is kind of unnecessary. You know, they're like, oh, you know, I'm a 4-hour sleeper. I'm like, no, nobody's a 4-hour sleeper. If so, it's probably like 1% of the population. If you're not getting sleep, you're not functioning at all, and your body's not functioning because there's no, you know, bathing of the brain, which happens at night. There's no, you know, turnover in cells that are dysfunctioning and aren't working. There's so much going on when we sleep, but it's the first thing people cut out.
Yeah. Awesome.
So those are the things that we would go through. And then honestly, everything just rides out individually. So
Sure. That makes sense. How do you know when a client is kind of ready to be on their own?
when I don't have to check in with them all the time.
Yeah.
So a lot of, people are just very different. Some people are very hands-on, some people are not. And I respect that.
Sure.
And some people just take the information and run.
Mm-hmm.
And some people, I think, understand that they are probably the barrier. They are their own worst barrier, right? And unfortunately, some people are okay with that.
Yeah.
And so we'll end our 3 months and be done. But a lot of clients I have, actually, we work probably for like about a year together. So you don't have to be a year client, but generally we'll move to a different pathway or different focus.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say they wanted to figure out how to start a routine with good food and good movement. And then we're working forward to fat loss or metabolic health or body composition, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or athletes' performance.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the biggest benefits, obviously the knowledge that you have is immense, but just having that accountability. People can come to you and I know you're not going to take any shit from anyone.
Yes.
You're going to hold them accountable.
Some people love it, some people hate it.
Yeah. So just that alone, because we all know it takes at least 21 days, if not longer, to establish a habit. So if they have you for 3 months where you are regularly checking in and you are expecting them to keep a journal or whatever it is, then
I absolutely love that approach that you're taking, because generally speaking, there's outliers, but our body composition is generally a result of our daily habits, right? So our movement habits, our food habits, all that stuff. So setting a foundation for all those things before you start worrying about losing 30 pounds or whatever, right? So, it's just another cultural thing that we have going on now in the world, is like all people worry about is like, I got to lose 30 pounds. Well, you might do a crash diet, lose 30 pounds, but guess what? If you don't change your habits, you're going to put those 30 pounds back on, in no time. So setting that foundation of the healthy habits is a huge deal.
Yeah, they're going to understand how to do it themselves. So yeah, and you're absolutely right. It's funny how many clients I do get that are, I've got 30 pounds to lose and I have a wedding to be at in 6 months.
Right.
And
that's typical.
Yes. And another thing that I do work on with people is understanding why they're doing what they're doing. Because if we don't have a big picture and we only are looking at the scale as success, you will always have failure and you will just be right back where you were before. And so many people, and I think I just did a post on this, but 95% of people who lose weight will regain it in 3 years. So obviously there's an issue, right? We're not dealing with the actual habits that are in your way. So giving a solid foundation is actually very simple too. And it is a good point for people when they feel maybe they've gone a little too far or they're not feeling good. Okay, I'm going to go back to those simple habits. We'll start there and then they can have, I don't like to say start over again because you've had experience back to back to back, but maybe learning something from why you get off track.
Well, and if people would just realize that actually implementing healthy habits and starting that foundation is so much easier than the crash dieting you have to do to lose 30 pounds in 2 months to go to a wedding.
Yes. And you can eat.
Yeah.
That's the thing. People are like, I just got to cut calories. No, that's actually probably not your problem.
Yeah. Actually, can you touch on that a little bit? Because we talked about it when we were hiking. How you said a lot of people's biggest issues is they're actually not eating enough calories.
Yep. And this is confusing. And I know I will have a ton of medical practitioners hear that and shudder because we've always been taught calories in, or calories in, calories out, yes, but move more and eat less. That's what we've been taught. That's what medical practitioners actually tell their clients when they see an increase in weight every year that they're going in, right?
And you shut your metabolism down.
Yes, so we can teach our bodies to function on very little energy. So what we're actually doing, it's funny because when I have people on plans, let's say after 6 months, they're working to build more lean mass, they're eating a lot of food. And most people, when they come in, they don't know what they're eating. So it's kind of like what you said is, they probably don't even think on a day-to-day basis, like, okay, I'm hungry. Well, this is your first meal today. And it's like probably, 500 calories. And then maybe you'll eat again later or not. That's generally the issue. So people in their minds, I think it's just in the back of their mind, like, oh, I just got to eat less. So they have decreased their food over and over and over again. Our bodies adapt. So you can actually, if you are somebody who's a fan of eating a lot of food, you can actually teach your body to function very optimally on high calories. So, but anyways, yes, the calories in, calories out, it just doesn't work for our systems. Our systems are very complex. It's not a closed, that's actually a physics equation. It's a closed system. We are not closed. We are very complex, open systems.
Yeah, people don't understand that you have to eat to to keep your metabolism going, because when you stop eating, your body goes into survival mode and it starts trying to preserve everything it possibly can. So it's a concept that I kind of learned just by myself over the years, and I was doing my personal training and all that stuff back in the day. So the way I would explain to people who I was trying to train is, as far as your metabolism goes, the example that I use is, have you ever skipped breakfast and then you get around to lunchtime and you're like, not really that hungry? It's because your metabolism is like lethargic. It's not really ramped up. But the other example is, have you ever ate like a small bowl of cereal or something like that, and then by like 9 o'clock in the morning you're just starving to death? That's because you've stimulated your metabolism by eating a small meal. It's got the calories going. It's your body's burning calories at that point, and then when it starts to run out, your body tells you like, oh gosh, I'm starving. I'm running out of calories, so I need to eat more, right? So there's just stuff like that can be manipulated as far as your metabolism goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think too I know you're a big fan of intermittent fasting, but I think people that don't really do their research on it think that, oh, well, I'm just intermittent fasting, but they don't understand how to do it and that they actually need to get in those calories that their body requires during the window that they're eating.
Yeah,
so it's very planned.
Intermittent fasting is a tool. And not everybody will thrive on it. One, because some people just don't like it.
Yeah.
And I respect that. But some people, I think that they can do very well on intermittent fasting. But you're right. The problem is you have to be very understanding of the calories coming in, because I've done intermittent fasting for women. It's very different. Generally, a cycling woman, intermittent fasting is great for like the first 2 weeks of your period, the day 1 to day 14, because your hormones are most like a man. You actually also can push very hard in the gym. You can recover a lot faster. Your sleep's a lot more efficient. So when you're already stressed out, the last 2 weeks for women, I would say no, don't do it. Open your window. Eat 3-4 meals a day, you'll be good to go. Men, it's different. I feel like they can thrive, anytime. But it's not for everybody. It's definitely it's a tool. But you're right. The problem that I see is they think it's intermittent fasting is, 8-hour eating window, 16-hour fasting. Intermittent fasting is a lot more complex than that. It really depends on you and your biology. It depends on your lifestyle, how active you are. So like my athletes, no. It will affect your performance. Don't do it. So it really depends on who you are. And I think that through periods of time, like we've seen with perimenopausal, menopausal, and postmenopausal women, they do very well with intermittent fasting. And it is a stressor on the body. So if you're sick, don't do it. If you're going through a stressful period, don't do it. But so many people, especially in my coaching world, they're like, oh, intermittent fasting, it's terrible for you. Well, then you have just turned off a tool for somebody that it might work very well for them.
Sure.
Yeah. Or people overeat as a result of it.
That's true too. So, and I see that a lot actually with female clients, mostly in those last 2 weeks. But honestly, it can also be very basic. You could get up and eat your first meal at noon, your first meal at 7 a.m., your second meal at noon, and then your last meal at 5. You have a 5-hour rest period between each meal. And we actually see great effects on your insulin, your fasting insulin coming down, less blood sugar spikes, stuff like that. But also when you're eating, your food matters. So people also, when they're doing intermittent fasting, they're not looking at the quality of their food, and you still have to do that.
Yeah, especially the very first meal you have when you're breaking that fast.
Super important.
Yeah, for sure.
Super important. And the things that we've been taught not to eat fat is hard for people to start their day with like a good fatty protein meal.
Yeah, on that note, it reminded me of like keto. It kills me because people are like keto friendly, all these keto foods. But what you don't realize is like a lot of those keto foods, like 1 ounce of that has like 9,000 calories in it. And people will be like, oh, it's keto. I'll just.
And it's processed.
Yeah. I'll eat it.
But even look at like macadamia nuts.
Yeah.
Okay, a phenomenal whole food.
Absolutely.
You eat a cup of that.
Yeah.
That's pretty calorie dense.
That's a whole day's worth of food.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm like, whoa, no, let's measure this. Okay.
Yeah.
You think you're eating a keto friendly salad, but it's got 1,200 calories in it. You're like really easily.
I hate all the processed food I see that's then labeled keto. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me.
Processed food. That's just it's crazy.
I see that all the time. It drives me nuts. They're like, it's keto, but it's like, that's crap food. Exactly. Yeah, it's like low in carbs, but it's still crap.
Same with gluten-free. Gluten-free. Yes. Oh my gosh. Some of the gluten-free products on the market are awful.
Yeah. It's too bad. All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps things up. Jamie, do you have anything you wanted to ask or add?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. This has been really informative.
Yeah,
I'm hoping that people, especially people who maybe don't care, or I shouldn't say care, maybe haven't taken the steps to really watch their nutrition, will really get some good nuggets out of this, and maybe at least hopefully read a little bit more about it, research, or reach out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And get your sleep and get this book and build some habits.
Yeah,
for sure.
If people do want to reach out to you, how can they get a hold of you?
You can actually just email me, jesshalfpop@gmail.com.
Okay, great. I'll link that in the show notes.
Perfect. Sounds great.
Yeah, and make sure you follow her on Instagram too, because she's got some really great posts.
That's right. I'm pretty sure I'm the only Jess Halfpop out there. So married into that name.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sweet. All right, Jamie, you want to take us out?
Absolutely. If you liked what you heard today, please help us grow the channel by leaving us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if you're watching on us YouTube, please subscribe. Let us know what you think. Have anybody out there started their miracle morning? We'd like to hear some feedback. Yep. So if you're watching on YouTube, leave us a comment. Let us know how your miracle morning is going. And with that, we'll see you next time.
Yep. Bye, guys.